All right, joining me on the phone right now is a very impressive guy, Doug Gray from the Marshall Tucker Band. And I am excited to be able to have a chance to talk with you, Doug, because I know the Marshall Tucker Band, you guys are going to be in Van Alstyne for their Sounds of Summer, that concert series that they put on. And the best part about it for everyone out there in the Mad Rock Nation is the concert is free there at the Central Social District Park on June 15th, Saturday, June 15th, free concert featuring you guys. Let's talk about
Sure.
this. I am fascinated by the history of the Marshall Tucker Band because you guys, like whenever you first got together, you had different names for bands that you and your friends got together, and then some of you went to go serve the military for Vietnam, right? You're a Vietnam veteran, so thank you for your service. We
Right.
appreciate that more than you know. But like, what was
Thank
it
you.
like, playing in bands, and then you end up in this conflict, the Vietnam conflict, right? And then you come back and you're like, you know what? I still want to play music. We still want to play music. So how did that come about for the creation of the Marshall Tucker Band?
Well, all of us, of course, when you get back from Vietnam and Toy got back from Vietnam, we all went to make money. That's what we had to do, right? We had no idea where we were going. So we kind of looked at each other and said, man, we'd already been out playing for fraternities and stuff like that because we were all younger. You're talking about 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So we were doing that. Toy and I looked at each other and said, man, let's give it a try, and write our own songs, go record them and stuff like that. Times have changed. So we just said, well, we like that guy in that particular band, so let's get him over here to try out with us. And then we like that other guy in that other band. Then we like this really good drummer. And so we didn't have a name for the first 8 months. I worked in a bank, and Toy was a master plumber with his father. And the rest of the guys, they were their dads, and they were out working too. So some was hanging roofing tiles. You know what I mean? So we had a wonderful time putting these things together. We're just regular old guys, and had fallen 50 years here later, and being in a place to start a band and not knowing what your name is going to be. We didn't want it to be the Toy Factory, the new generation we had already been through. The Gilsman, all that stuff in elementary school and junior high school. So we said, all right, here, we'll just find somebody. So we found a key, and on the key had Marshall Tucker. That key had led us into the little bitty warehouse. It was 5x5 that we rehearsed in. And the promoter came down and said, man, I need a name for him. You guys sound pretty good. We want you to open for this band that's coming through. It's a nice club up the street. Really wasn't that nice of a club, but it was a nice place to play. So we said, give us an hour. So we kept throwing that key back and forth and drinking and having a good time and doing whatever else we was doing. So he came back down there and he said, man, I got to have a name to put on the marquee and also the billboard things and stuff like that. So, and then I made the mistake asking who was opening for, and they said, Allman Brothers. And I went, oh, well, we'll just call it the Marshall Tucker Band. Here, take the key with you if you want to. So, that started a history of us. And then a week later, we went down to, we got invited by Jimmy Holloway at Willie Band, got invited to come to Macon, and Phil Walden heard us down there. And that was 2 weeks later that we signed with Capricorn Records. So the rest is kind of history. We've been with Warner Brothers, Capitol Records, at all kind of different WEAs and stuff like that. And the reason that you do that is because everybody's not going to be a star forever. And we weren't a star. We never looked at it that way. I today do not look at it that way. I live pretty good, and everybody else and all my kids and grandkids and all that stuff, we all doing pretty good. They're professionals, went to college, the whole bit. So what we've done now is these guys that were with us want to be in the Marshall Tucker Band because they want to carry on a legacy. Me, I was stuck with being one of the originals, and I'm the only one basically left that's still out there doing it.
So now talking, 50 plus years later, when you were actually putting the band together, you just like the way that some of these guys played, as you said. So did you
Yeah.
consider yourself, because 50 years later, we can easily put the Marshall Tucker Band right into, you're a rock band, you're a Southern rock band to be more specific now that, as they,
Right.
as they call that. But really, I mean, your music includes blues, it includes country, it includes jazz, a little bit of everything. What did you, when you first put the band together, What did you actually, did you consider yourselves a rock band or did you consider yourself something different?
Oh, well, that's probably what hurt us most is we had the ability to have people that were trained musicians that could get in there and do it, that had the experience, had been to school, had done different things. So it did give us an opportunity to come in, throw a little jazz part here, there, here and there. We didn't intend for it to be that way. But when we actually took Skinner out for the first time, they, it, we had no idea. And I certainly, Ronnie Van Zant was one of my best friends for 3 or 4 years until they passed. And then, and that was a terrible loss. But both going out and playing in front of, Jazz Crusaders and Spiral Gyre and stuff like that, which is names a lot of people don't even know who it is. But then we'd go and play with, excuse me, B.B. King, and then we go play with Sly and the Family Stone and stuff like that, and was accepted by everybody. That's the key. They accepted us because we had so many versatile instruments, but we also got left behind with radio. And when you get left behind with radio, because every time that we come out with a new record, Tom Petty, being a rocker, would do better, or Skinner would do better. So we didn't regret the fact that we weren't going to change the way we were, because we were having too good a time and selling gold and platinum records everywhere. And every so often there's another platinum come out. I mean, it's old stuff, but it's another platinum selling record. So none of that really bothered us. Nobody can plan something like that. Hell, we didn't even have cell phones back then. You'd have to stop, and we'd stop at a Mexican restaurant or a restaurant somewhere, and everybody would take turns using the phone calling home. Those people forget about those things. And in my books that I'm preparing to release at some point in time, the different eras of Marshall Tucker Band. And of course, we lost Tommy first in 1980. Which made the band weaker, and it's Toy's brother, and then we just they didn't have the ability and the gumption to go on. So I sang 99% of those songs. Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't sing "Can't You See" because Toy would come to me with that song, and he says, "Man, I got this song. I want you to sing it." I tried to sing it. I said, "Toy, you don't understand. You're testifying this song. I testify love songs and ballads and stuff like that. Heard it in a love song. I can testify something like that." But he sang "Can't You See" like it was, a booger coming out from behind to scare you at Halloween, Yeah. So, I mean, he was sweetest man you ever wanted to hear. But whenever he got out there, that was it. And then those guys wanted to come off the road, and it enabled me, and we were only together for 8 years, but it enabled me to call all the buyers and promoters around the entire world that's the one thing I do appreciate is those guys like us, and we're still all friends, whether their sons are running their businesses or not. And I called them. I said, "Look, what do you think about me taking this thing and running with it?" Said, "If you don't do us a mistake, you did sing all those other songs except for a couple of them, and why would you not?" So, the history's there. And you know what? I got people standing in line right now that want to be a part of a legacy that's going to probably go on for the next 20, 30 years.
I saw some interviews of you probably not too long ago talking about how your kids kind of like, "Hey, are you ever going to retire?" And you have no interest in that, I understand.
Well, I live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm from Spartanburg, South Carolina. My grandkids are 14 and 15. They live in Spartanburg. When they asked one of my daughters is retired psychiatrist, and the other one likes 14 hours, and she will be. So they look at me and say, "You don't need to do nothing. You don't. You've done this long enough, and anybody in their right mind would know I have everything I ever need." What am I supposed to say when a booking agents that handle this UTA look around and say, there's so many things out there. They have a lot of huge groups as well, but they look at me in a meeting and say, "Well, you can make this thing go on forever if you want to." And I'm thinking, well, I'm not going anywhere because during COVID we didn't get to go out, but so I sit out there and did nothing and about drove myself and everybody else around me crazy. because I'm one of those aggressive, not a passive person. I'm an aggressive person. I want something done, and let's do it and have a good time. And people appreciate me for that reason. There's too many people out there that need help, and they gave me a time to really reflect on how I was going to help them.
Well, I personally am very excited that you're not calling it quits. That's all I can say is I'm looking forward to seeing you live there in Van Alstyne. So speaking of that, let's talk about this show that's coming up on June 15th in Van Alstyne for their Sounds of Summer concert series. So tell us, who is part of the Marshall Tucker Band now?
Well, you got Chris Hicks. He's my sidekick. He's been there 25 years. Okay, he's from Macon, Georgia, and he's kind of like the soulful part of the band. Then you have a trained musician, which is very, very much trained and played with a lot of different orchestras and stuff like that. He's flute, saxophone, and singer. And his name is Marcus Henderson. And then I have the local guys, which one of them's daddy used to be my bodyguard almost 40 years ago. And I heard him play, and he'd come back and he'd played on a lot of country records up in Nashville, some too many to let you know. But he said, man, I'm just tired of being in a certain place. I said, well, come on back down here and play with us. And so he did. And then I have B.B. Borden, who played with the Outlaws, Mother's Finest, old rhythm and blues group, some 30 years ago. So these guys are not ready to. You won't see a failure amongst any of them. What you'll see is people up there enjoy looking around, waiting to see if we can laugh at one another when one of us makes a mistake, because we do make mistakes. It's kind of like everybody wants to be there. We just have a good time, and life is way, way too short. Let's just pray for a lot of people that can't find their way home.
And giving people an opportunity to see bands like the Marshall Tucker Band. I mean, it could inspire, future generations of musicians. And so if you were to give advice to anybody, like with Mad Rock, we're starting to bring in a new generation of people who are listening to the music that we're playing, the 70s Southern rock and the 80s hair bands and stuff like that. And they're, to them, this is all brand new, whereas the rest of us, grew up with this. So what would your advice to these new musicians?
Yeah, well, that's the greatest question that we finish up with is, and I tell you why, because I get 12-year-old people like Dwayne Betts on stage with us when he was 12.
Yeah.
The Almond Boy, I got him up there when he was about 15. And having been around, all these different people come up. I get blues artists. We were just on tour with Bonamassa, Joe Bonamassa.
Joe Bonamassa, love him,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I never met anybody that didn't. He's a great guy to begin with, and he's got a heart of gold. And he started the same year I did, 7 years old. So it's not just a learned thing, something that you either got it or you don't. And if you see the kids that come to see us now, and there is an interview out there where 15-year-old and 14-year-old kids come to one of those state fairs, and we're playing and we do an autograph session afterwards or before. This happened to me not too long ago. This girl came up. She said, I just got to have one for me, and I got to have one for my grandpa. And I went, where's your grandpa? Because I was hoping she was there with somebody else, And she said, that's my grandpa over there, but every Christmas he makes me stand in front of the mantle at home, and I have to look at a picture of you and him whenever he first saw you 40 years ago. And I go, well, them's the breaks, baby. You'll learn. She said, but I really did like the show tonight. So I said, well, are you going to put it on the mantle? She says, no, but I'll probably put it up in a picture in my room when I get this picture put. So life is changing. It's good for us. And already I put people in Cirque du Soleil and stuff like that, only because I have the connections, because they're good too. There's good players out there. I hope they all get stronger. I hope they all work at it, realize this is hurt, and this is feel good. Every bit of this music is. It doesn't matter what kind. You'll fall on your knee, and then you're going to get up, and then you'll pick that guitar up and go at it again.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to having the Marshall Tucker Band play again live. Van Alstyne, their Sounds of Summer concert series, which is Saturday, June 15th. It is a free community concert, which is fantastic. You can get more information online about that, and I'll post some of that stuff up on the same page where I'll have the audio from our interview here today. So again, Doug Gray from the Marshall Tucker Band, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today.
Thank you very, very much. And I hope all the fans appreciate it. Okay.